Okay, so there you have it. So optimistic mind, Pamela the thinker, and versatile Rachel. So we're going to continue our Life to the Full series with focus, but in this style of an interview, of course. And of course, just because it's not an official preaching doesn't mean you don't have to pay attention. There's a lot of things that you can learn from, even as young as they are, these ladies. So, our second question, I guess, will be, what is the one thing that distracts you or takes your mind off the most? Let's start with Pam.
I think a lot of youths can relate with this, but I think my biggest distraction is my phone. Yes. I spend during the day a lot of hours on social media, watching movies, TV shows, and sometimes, I think there's something more productive I could do with that time because, once that time is gone, you can't get it back, and my phone is definitely my biggest distraction.
I think a lot of the youth can relate to that. Maybe not just even youth, but not just our phones as well, like computers or gadgets or iPads, whatever it may be. A lot of electronics can take our minds off of things that are more important. Okay, let's go to Rachel.
What distracts me the most from what's important, which is building my relationship with God, is probably all of these things outside of church. Like, for example, I have all these extracurricular activities which benefit me as a person, but then because I keep juggling these activities, I sometimes forget that I have Him in my life and that I have to talk to Him and nurture and maintain my relationship with Him.
Yeah, the non-spiritual activities that we do can also interfere with our spiritual life, and often we may prioritize them over the spiritual activities that we should do. Yeah, last but not least, Maya?
For me, I would say people. For example, I would get a phone call or group chat call, then I would just get carried away and forget about what I have to do. For example, planning for a care group, teaching, and sometimes I would leave it to last minute and it's not a good idea, guys. Yeah, so don't always leave your homework even for people, like students, the youth especially, so yeah, I think I would say people for me, yes.
It's always good, to help out people, especially those in need, but sometimes you really have to think what is more important at the time. What should you be prioritizing, and do you have time to make for other people? Okay, so these are the things that take your minds off of what you need to focus on. But what are the things you need to focus on in the first place? Okay, let's start with Rachel.
So, as I mentioned previously, my relationship with God, but not just that, also my relationships with people in my life. I know for a fact that recently God's been bringing a lot of new people into my life, but while He's doing that, sometimes I'm starting to forget that I have all of these old relationships that I've been building on for so many years. And these relationships have really helped to shape me as a person, and they really do bring so much to my character, and I feel like I need to start focusing more on that and not neglect them. Also, I feel that my well-being is something I need to focus on. Coming back from New York this week, I've really experienced being ill, and I've really experienced being unstable, both emotionally, mentally, and physically. But the one thing I found was that it's my spiritual well-being that's really allowing me to push through and still feel like I can come to church, take part in this interview, carry on and be fine.
We should always put our spiritual well-being first, because then the rest of our well-being, physical, mental, emotional, whatever it may be, they'll all fall into place as well. Okay, so we go to Maya now.
Thank you. So, as for me, as well as my relationship with God, I think what I need to focus on is my leadership, like growing in leadership to lead people, especially the youth, and in my care group. Because lately, and even for the past few months, I know I've been slacking, and I could feel that because I could see my people struggling as well. So I think that's what I need to focus on.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yeah, leadership is a very important responsibility.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. And if you are the one to crumble, then the whole team will crumble as well. And so it's very important that as a leader you focus on your responsibilities.
Amen.
Okay.
Yes.
I think my focus for now and for every day of my life is on God. And I think very recently I just started uni, and I've been having so many events, and I feel like my life has been so busy, and I've really sometimes neglected God, and He hasn't been number one in my life. And now I'm really trying to focus on making Him number one on my list, because I know that if God isn't number one, if He isn't my first priority, He's not going to be in my life at all. So my main focus is definitely on God.
Amen.
Always put God first. You hear it a lot, but it's important. There's a famous saying that if you try to catch two rabbits at the same time, then both of them will escape. It's only when you focus on one, then you can catch both. Alright. So, Jesus said in John 4:34 that His food is to do the will of the Father and to accomplish it. In this context, Jesus isn't talking about reaching for the lost. But for you, what do you think is the will of the Father in your lives? Okay, let's start with mine.
Thank you, CK, for the question. So for me, I think the will of God for me is to serve others. Like you would put yourself before, yeah, and like what Jesus did, He didn't come just to to be served, but to serve others. So to be selfless as well, yeah.
Amen.
So putting others before you.
And
Yeah.
yes, selflessness is very difficult for a lot of people to achieve, but of course, as Maya said, Jesus came to serve, not be served. Okay, and Rachel?
I think in my life, God wants to really use me and show me that I'm different from everyone else. You know, there's a saying that you were not born to blend in, but to stand out, and this does ring quite a strong bell with me, because growing up, God has blessed me with all these good qualities and gifts, and it's because He wants to use me as His light and to be the salt of this world. He wants me to be able to guide people, that way they can see what's different about me and wonder, oh, what is it? And that is Jesus. I think it's that He wants it to do.
Yes, indeed, we're all different from the crowd, right? Because we all have Jesus in our lives. So let's not be afraid to show that to other people. Okay, and Pam?
For me, I think God's will for me is to care for the people around me in my life. I think we've all gone through our personal trials, temptations, troubles, and difficulties. And recently, I've seen that God has put certain people in my life that I can really relate to. And I just want to say that, your triumphs, your victories, the things that you've gone through, your experiences, they're not just your own. They're there also to bless other people, and that you will meet also other people that are going through the same things that you've gone through. And I'm really experiencing that right now. So I think the will of God for me is to help these people and to show them that if they have God in their lives, they can also overcome and they can be victorious as well.
Amen.
Indeed, I believe God has put certain people in all of our lives that we really need to pay attention to. And sometimes our experiences that we share with other people may help encourage them as well, maybe even here today. So Jesus didn't just say that His food is the will of the Father, but also to accomplish it, right? So the principle is to stay focused until the work is completed, not leave it unfinished. However, have any of you experienced starting something great, but then on the way to finishing it, you got distracted and then you couldn't finish it? Yeah.
Yes, I'm a worship leader, and when we first started out in Surrey Enhance, which is a daughter church of here, we were a very small team, and for that to work, I really had the goal to level up, to develop my skills in worship, as playing keyboard, singing as well. And I feel like there were so many distractions at the time, and I failed to develop my skills, and I became frustrated with that because I wasn't only just letting myself down, I was also letting the team down. And I think with that is like, there will always be distractions. You just have to be really intentional to, if you have a goal, you have to choose, you have to be intentional to actually achieve that goal. And despite the distractions.
I think there's always room for self-improvement, as they say, but of course, especially when you're part of a team, you don't want to be the one to let the team down, especially if the other members are hardworking, but you're not. So.
Oh yeah. So my God. Yeah. So okay, last year we went to the Singapore conference. Pam was there, Chelsea, and Harold from the other youth as well. So we were all encouraged then by the other our families in Singapore, and they shared like their word to us. They prayed for us, and we were all fired up with that when we came here. And we shared that to the rest of the youth as well. And then where I had plans, and for example, outreach, street evangelism for the youth, but we only did once. Then I failed to do more and just made up excuses along the way. So I think that's something that I failed last year.
Yeah, I think we've all, or most of us, have gone through the experience of setting a plan or a goal for ourselves and not being able to accomplish it. For example, like a New Year's resolution or something like that. And often that can feel more disheartening than never making the goal in the first place. So it's very important that when we make a plan or a goal, we really focus on it so that we can accomplish it. So of course it can be very frustrating for us to not accomplish something. But there's always that sense of satisfaction when you do manage to complete something, especially if it's with distractions. So have any of you ever experienced starting something great, then managing to finish it despite any distractions?
Actually, around November, December time last year, I was preparing for one of my mock exam seasons because I'm in year 11 and we have this to prepare us for our GCSEs, which are in a few months. And I remember every day was just dedicated to constant studying and revision and making sure I could retain all the information for such a jam-packed exam season. But the one thing that kept me going was the fact that I knew I could talk to God and communicate with Him, and that I could always go to Him to relax and to help me pull through. And thank God for that, because I received my results recently and I surpassed my expectations and I did really well.
Amen.
Thanks to that time I spent talking to Him and revising.
Amen.
Yeah, indeed, of course, we can always pray in our times of need, when we need God the most. But also, we can pray before that so that it never reaches to that point in the first place. Amen. Okay? Anybody else?
2 years ago, actually, I was able to finish my first year in Bible college.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And I can really relate to Rachel because during that time as well, I was just juggling my A-levels. And that year was very difficult for me. And there were a few times that, I just didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to go Bible college. I wanted to give up. But I know that if I hadn't been for God, I wouldn't have been able to pass any of my exams. And during those moments of difficulties, I really learned to rely on Him more. And that He reminded me that He's always there. That, even when I thought He was so far away, He was always there guiding me, pushing me, He gave me the energy to keep going. And He also, put so many good people in my life. Like I had great classmates who were here as well, who always cheered me up and encouraged me. So God was really amazing during those times. And with Him on my side, I was able to complete Bible college.
Yay.
And not just complete, I hear that you graduated with distinction.
Ooh.
For me, I would say when I impacted another youth's life, like now I can see like the growth in her and how she's willing to serve more in God's kingdom. Like she even got baptized, and she wasn't doubting God and she wasn't hesitating, but she wanted to go for it and really live up her faith. with God. So I think that's what encouraged me the most as well, to encourage more youth and the people around me. Yes.
Yes, it's always inspiring to make an impact on somebody else's lives, to know that you had that impact, because it also makes a positive impact on your lives.
Amen.
One of my favorite quotes is that the best way to learn is to teach. So when you mentor and disciple someone else, you also grow closer in your relationship to God. Okay, so one last question for you all, and that is there any advice you'd like to give to everyone here, especially the youth? Okay.
Okay, so I'll start. Invest in yourself first, like your personal relationship with God.
Amen.
Because that's where you really, grow, and people can see that. Like if they see something different in you, they'll be like, wow, what's with her? What's with him?
Amen.
So if they see something like what Rachel said earlier, you don't blend in the crowd. So I would say, yeah, focus your relationship with God. Yeah, thank you.
I just want to say that there will always be distractions in our lives, and there's going to be inevitable. We will all go through difficult times, and I think it's just important to know what your priorities are. And when you set a goal, you have to be intentional in achieving that goal. Yeah? When you set them, they're not going to do it by themselves. And you really have to put in the work and the effort. And you're not by yourself. God is always there as well. So you know that you're never alone in achieving those goals as well.
While we always should be focusing on things in our lives, I also feel like a good piece of advice for all of us here is to take a step back and to zoom out every once in a while to really see how God is moving in the bigger picture of our lives, and that way we can see His will in our lives and how He moves through us and how He wants to guide us in the future. Because the last thing we want is to hear Him wrong. We don't want to hear His will wrong and zoom in on the wrong things in our lives, because that will end up taking us down the wrong path, and in the end we'll end up getting hurt. So zooming out is really the best way for us to see how He moves, how He wants us to follow Him, and what we should be doing in our lives.
Amen.
Okay, so thank you, ladies, for your responses and what you shared today. And I'm sure everyone is very touched by what you shared. So let's all give one last round of applause. So before we close in prayer, I just want to share something short. It's like 3 principles, like as a quick recap of what we should do of focusing. And it's all about the best things in life that we should be focusing on. The first principle is that the best things should be the first things. When you put God first, that's the only place that He'll ever be able to fit in, because otherwise He won't be able to fit in. Put Him in third, fourth, even second, then He's not first in your life, and that's not what you should be doing. And the second thing is that when the best things are put first, the good things are more rewarding. Things like Bible college, things like mock exams, or even discipling someone else. They feel so much more rewarding when you have put these best things first, as in God and spiritual growth. So you might ask yourself, well, what are these best things? And the third principle is that the best things are the things that will be important in the end. When you're on your deathbed, few people will say, well, you know what? I wish I had been drunk more. Or I wish I had spent more time gaming, or something like that, right? It's more things like, I wish I'd spent more time with my family, or I wish I'd made up with that one friend that I fell out with, or even I wish I'd spent more time with God, or I wish I'd brought more people to Christ. These are the sorts of things that are really important and you should really put first in your lives. Alright, so let's close in prayer. I invite everyone to bow your heads.